نريد ندرس. قاعدة داخل، إذا تواليتات ما بي، حمامات ما بي، قاعد نغسل برا.
The war on children in Syria continues unabated. What has the world come to when even going to school has become a matter of life or death?
Call upon all parties, wherever in the world, responsible for the war on children to stop.
Regardless of nationality, ideology, and religion, UNICEF is at the forefront in leading children's relief efforts around the globe. We are delighted to be joined with Greert CAPPELAERE, UNICEF Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Very happy to be here.
All right, so once again, welcome to Heart. I'm excited to be able to have this talk with you. I would like to first of all ask you whether you've been to Korea before. Is this your first visit or have you been here before?
I have been here before, 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
For two good reasons. First of all, work-related, but also on a personal basis. My youngest son did study in Korea. He finished his studies marketing in the Gwangju University. So that was another reason why coming to Korea.
Okay, so that was 4 years ago. Would you please tell us about the purpose of your visit this time?
There are several reasons why I'm back in Korea. The most important one is to thank the government of the Republic of Korea, to thank the Korean people for the generosity they have shown over the past years. Generosity towards the most vulnerable children across the world we as UNICEF are serving. It's also an opportunity, this visit, to engage with the government of Korea, but also with the Korean private sector, with Korean civil society, because there is a lot that the world can learn from Korea's history in a nation that 40, 50 years ago was still benefiting from UNICEF, to a nation that now can give to the most vulnerable children in the world. Yes,
as you've mentioned, it is true. Korea used to be a recipient country, but now is a donor, right? Is a donor country as well. So we all know, you did briefly tell us about UNICEF. Of course, when we say UNICEF, almost automatically we think that it stands for children. Children come to our mind. But could you tell us or give us a more detailed introduction of UNICEF mission as a whole?
Well, UNICEF is the world's leading organization for children's rights. We are an organization that is working across the world. We are active in over 180 countries, active in a number of ways. First and foremost, to be the voice of those children who are suffering, these boys and girls whose fundamental rights to education, health, to protection is not being met. But we are also an organization that is there in the field, even in the most difficult situations in the countries facing conflict, for example. We are there with the children, with the communities, to provide actively health services, guaranteeing that children get vaccinated, guaranteeing that children can continue going to school and benefit from quality education, guaranteeing that children have access to drinking water, proper sanitation, that children are being protected from any form of violence and exploitation. So we have a huge mandate, a mandate serving the most vulnerable children across the world.
Yes, you're doing something beautiful, I would have to say. So you took up the post of UNICEF's Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa. This was back in October of 2016.
Correct.
So could you please tell us about the MENA region, MENA, which stands for Middle East and North Africa, and the areas of most urgent need, particularly in Syria and the Syrian refugee camps?
Well, the region of the Middle East and Northern Africa is probably a region today where it is not best to be a child or to grow up as a child.
Yes.
It is a region, unfortunately, that is hit by a lot of armed conflict. You mentioned rightly so the conflict in Syria, but we have active conflict in Yemen, we have active conflict in Palestine, we have active conflict in Libya, we have still active conflict in Sudan, in Iraq. So a number of countries are facing active conflict and children suffering dramatically. A number of countries show generosity in receiving thousands, millions of refugees from these countries in conflict. For example, in Lebanon, Jordan, we have close to 2 million children, Syrian children, living as refugees. The Middle East and Northern Africa is also a region where you have countries who have been benefiting from the oil revenues, but unfortunately with the decline of the oil prices, we see a growing number of these countries in economic crisis, with again a huge impact upon children. Children pay a brutal price of the war, with thousands of children being killed every single year. Children suffering deep, deep poverty. So it is not, the Middle East, Northern Africa today is not necessarily a place where it is always pleasant to be a child.
Yes.
The Syrian civil war broke out in 2011 as a protest against Bashar al-Assad's administration. And since then, there's been unending news of chemical and guerrilla attacks in the country. Currently, more than 350,000 Syrians are dead, and half the country's population have turned into refugees. Out of them, children make up the majority. The civil war has robbed them of everything they once knew. After losing their parents in an air raid, life just gets harder for these Syrian children who try to survive. With the firm mission to save the future generation, UNICEF's commitment to deliver these children continues on.
Could you tell us how UNICEF is helping Syrian families?
Absolutely. UNICEF is on the front lines, I would say. We have a massive operation inside Syria. We have a massive operation in the neighboring countries receiving Syrian refugee children. So we are really on a day-to-day basis, 24/7, there actively supporting children and their families. We are providing a range of services to children. We are providing vaccination, for example, some elementary health services. We try sometimes in very creative ways to guarantee that children can go back to school, that children can continue benefiting from learning. We are providing drinking water at times by bringing water bowsers to the respective communities so that children continue benefiting from that life-saving water. We provide protection services. As you can imagine, children who are going through a conflict every single day, see fighting happening, have bombs coming from the air, see their loved ones being killed. Children are distressed, children are traumatized. UNICEF, therefore, is setting up child-friendly spaces where we provide some playing opportunities for children, allowing children to remain children, to continue to be children.
Where do you see these children in a year's time, perhaps a year later? Where do you hope to see them in a year?
Well, that's a really very good question. And allow me just to share the experiences of meeting with these children in these conflict countries. I'm each and every time amazed by these children. Despite all of what these children have gone through, the children will be very quick not to share their suffering, but share their dreams, their aspirations. So where do these children have to be in a year's time? They need to be in a much better place. They need to be in a place where their dreams can come true. Of course, that will require political leadership. That will require from the fighting parties and the countries who have impact over the fighting parties to put at the center of their interest the children. No political or military interest, but put at the core of the discussions children. Only then we can hope that in a year's time children will be in a better place. But if we leave it to the politicians the way they are acting today, I'm afraid in a year's time the situation may be as bad or even, if possible, worse than it is today.
Could you perhaps tell us about UNICEF's mid to long-term plan, perhaps? I mean, were the crisis to end in a year's time?
Well, UNICEF is ready. While we are providing 24/7 humanitarian assistance on a day-to-day basis, we are also preparing for the moment that peace may come back. We are preparing for schools to be reconstructed. A lot of damage has been done to infrastructure inside Syria, including to school buildings. Today, 1 out of 3 schools in Syria cannot be longer used for learning simply because they have been destroyed or they are being used for military purposes. So we are preparing ourselves in order to reconstruct education system, reconstruct the health system, but also ensuring that children are prepared. We talk a lot about the destruction of the infrastructure. What hits me most when I am in Syria is the destruction of the social fabric. So we need to help children through civic education, through life skills, to be again these citizens that are going to rebuild that social fabric to make of a country like Syria again a place where everybody can live peacefully next one to another.
Yes. This reminds me of a song that I listened to. It was a beautiful song with children in the background. I'm sure you can tell us about this wonderful song. Was it written by the children?
Yeah.
Yes.
A heartbeat song, so it is very much also heart to heart. It's a beautiful song. It is sung by the lead singer is a blind girl, and a girl who we have welcomed as part of our child-friendly spaces. In conflict areas, we organize these child-friendly spaces to give children a little bit of normalcy, a little bit of play. We sing with the children, we play some sports, we play some games with the children. And here we discovered that we had a group of children when we were singing who had all very beautiful voices. We reached out to one of our Goodwill ambassadors, who is a singer-composer, and he, a Jordanian national, he wrote for us that beautiful song, Heartbeat, and we then, with the children in the areas where they are living, registered the song, and it is a very powerful song in content, and it is so powerful that today in many countries the song has been translated into the local languages, and children's choirs or philharmonic orchestras have been performing the song across the world. So maybe an invitation for the Republic of Korea to maybe have a Korean version of it and to bring it to the world and bring it to the Korean people.
Yes, that would be beautiful. That song was really beautiful. And even just thinking about the song right now, listening, remembering myself, just sitting in front of my computer, listening to that song just brings tears to my eyes even at this moment. It really is a beautiful song. I want to let our viewers know that you all should check it out for sure.
من قلبي دمار ونار جرح كبير بالصوت العالي بدي أقول بس الصوت صغير يمكن نحن أولاد صغار بس صرختنا من القلب بدنا نمحي كل الخوف ونكون التغيير بأعلى صوت بدي أقول بالغنية كل شي معقول حدا يسمع حدا يشوف طفولتنا بتنام بالصوت الواحد آمنا أكتر رح نصير أقوى طفولتنا تكبر بهالغنية اللي عم نكتبها بوجع وخوف ودموع العين رجعت دقات القلب عالحياة عالحياة عالحياة
There are people, I know people, and I am, should I say, donating on a monthly basis. So I am helping out a little bit. But I've seen people around me asking or wondering, as you've mentioned, even $1 can do wonders. You can help so much even by donating $1, helping out with $1. So some people, for those that feel it's a financial burden for them to maybe donate a certain amount every month, is it also possible for them to maybe donate a certain amount of money, like an amount that they could afford to donate every month? Is that also possible?
Absolutely, but let me first thank you for your generosity and support. And through you, really a big thank you to the people of the Republic of Korea. We as UNICEF have here over 400,000 pledge donors, individuals who on a monthly basis contribute a small amount of money. But as I said, a small amount that makes a huge difference. Every single contribution is welcome. The smallest contribution, as I said, makes a huge difference. So don't worry too much about how much, how little. That doesn't matter. It is the giving that counts. And that giving, you know, is making every child, every boy, girl there, out there, smile. Because their aspirations, their dreams are coming a little bit closer from being realized.
Yes, I'll remember that. Now, how does UNICEF plan to broaden its funding partners on a global and local level as well?
Well, UNICEF is reaching out to a wide range of
through
partners.
Networking and
Absolutely, and so we have, of course, the governments we are approaching, and governments like the government of the Republic of Korea being extremely generous. There are governments for whom donating is not necessarily yet part of their tradition, and so governments we then approach and show how big a return it is to invest in assisting children across the globe. We are reaching out to individuals. We are reaching out also to the private sector, to corporate companies, to see how they can contribute financially, how they can contribute in kind. We were talking about education, for example, using tablets. Well, companies who produce these tablets, well, very welcome. Share with us maybe in kind those tablets so that we can help children accessing education. We are reaching out to non-traditional partners, foundations across the world, wealthy individuals who are very keen to do something with their wealth that is serving a broader global goal. Well, what better goal to serve than the goal of helping the most vulnerable children, guaranteeing that every boy and girl gets what we would want for our own children.
So South Korea was a recipient of UNICEF aid, and today, correct me if I'm wrong, is Korea the 4th largest donor to UNICEF?
It's a very important donor indeed to UNICEF.
Wow. Okay, so well, definitely the fact that it is a donor to UNICEF, undergoing major transformations, not only as a donor but as an exemplary member in the community, especially in terms of development. So I'd like you to ask about your thoughts, how you perceive the relation between UNICEF and Korea, financially as well as strategically.
Well, another very good question. Korea is, for UNICEF, a model donor because what the government of the Republic of Korea is very clearly believing in UNICEF, in our mission, but also in how UNICEF is providing assistance. The Republic of Korea is providing a big part of its support to UNICEF as a contribution to our core budget, without any conditions, leaving UNICEF to decide where best to invest these resources. That is the investment with the biggest possible return for children. There is much we can learn from the Republic of Korea and how the Republic of Korea got today and what it has done in order to get where we are today. Its investment in education is exemplary. So we hope to export the Korean model to other countries for other countries to benefit from.
Oh, wow. Sounds wonderful.
Many children in the Middle East and Africa are suffering from war and poverty. Greert CAPPELAERE is working to alleviate the dire situations for these children, with the hope that they too can enjoy basic human rights regardless of nationality, ideology, or religion. Until the day that children all over the world are happy and safe, UNICEF's activities will continue on.
Now we are reaching the end of our show, so I have a last question for you. You're not only the regional director for the Middle East and North Africa region, you are an expert on child protection. So what do you hope to see happen in the region, in all different regions of the world where children are suffering?
Well, if there is one thing I hope for very dearly, engaging every day with children who are suffering, is for that sacred principle that children should be protected wherever they are, at any moment of time, for that sacred principle to be indeed realized every single day. Today, with the wars going on, I have to say that fighting parties, that those countries with influence over fighting parties are not any longer implementing that respect for children. Otherwise, you will not be able to explain that thousands of children are killed, that children are disabled for life, that children are not able to go to school because of conflict. It has to do with the fact that we are not anymore as committed as we should be to the protection of children. So my hope is that governments across the world will stick again together and say, if there is one thing we need to do, it is to protect children at any moment of time.
Thank you so much for that message. I want to thank you once again for joining us today right here in the studio. Despite your very busy schedule, I know you flew in last night and you'll be flying out very soon. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to learn about UNICEF and to learn about what there is that we can do, that it's not difficult to actually help out. We can do so many things to help these children, and these children should not be sacrificed for any reason. They should be protected from war and violence and abuse. They should be able to be happy as children. So thank you once again for this opportunity. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much. Shukran.